All right, so in the notes here, we're talking about the grabber tool right now. The grabber tool has basically 3 tools associated. Now, how do I know it has different tools associated? Well, the reason why I know is because it has a little triangle thing underneath it, right there in the bottom, a little triangle. So I've got a triangle and you click on it and hold down your mouse and you can see it says time, separation, and object right there. So what I can do is let's just take a look at what these different tools do. I'm going to go back to my original slow counting here that has, here, let's just make that with no, there we go, with no edits. So here's my original counting with no edits at all, and we're going to use these tools and show you what these different tools do using these different edits. So first of all, I'm going to highlight this one right here. Whatever, I don't know what number that is. I'm going to highlight it, and let's take a look at these different grabber tools. So first one is just time. Time is just a normal one. It just grabs and moves, right? There's nothing I can really do about the time one. But if I go to separation, what separation does is it now, when I mouse over it, this like highlighted part, you can see there's a little scissors in my hand. See, there's no scissors right here. There's a scissors in my hand right here. See the little scissors in my hand? Well, those scissors basically mean I'm in separation mode. So what I can do is I can click, and as soon as I grab it, it separates that selected area. This is super cool when you're using, when you're editing really quickly. And this is basically, the separation tool is how Ableton Live works automatically anyway. With Ableton Live, when you've got the little pointer tool and you highlight something and you click and you drag it around, it automatically separates it out. So it's just how Ableton Live works. If you're used to Ableton Live, you're used to this already. The other one here, let me go in back in my selection tool. What I'm doing is I'm just clicking in different parts. Click, and then I'm hitting Command E to make little separations to separate these different clips out. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my object tool, and the object tool allows me to select different non-contiguous clips. So if I hold down my Shift key, I can select these different clips in here. Now you might be saying, but Tony, hold on a second. Wait, I thought you could just do that anyway. No, you can't. You thought wrong. If I go back to my normal tool or my separation tool, which is the one I usually use, and I hold down Shift, watch what happens. It automatically selects everything in the middle there, right? But if I have this object tool turned on, now I can select just the ones I want. And it just selects those by holding down Shift. The next thing you might say is, wait, Tony, hold on a second. Can't you just hold down the Command key to do that? That's what I do in Logic and Ableton Live. In Ableton Live, if I want to select a bunch of clips together, I hold down Shift. But if I want to select one clip at a time, I hold down Command. And unfortunately, Pro Tools doesn't work like that. I'm not exactly sure why they set it up like this. I'm sure somebody has a reason at some point in time, but I don't have the answer for that. I'm not that person. I don't know what their reason is. With Pro Tools, in order to select non-contiguous clips, you must use the object tool. You got to use the object tool. Do I love it? No. Do I have to do it? Yes. Do I have to do it all the time? Not really. I have to do it sometimes, maybe like once a day. Not all the time, but enough that I'm like, meh about it. Okay. So that's what you got here. The object tool is like this, clips on a track. If I grab it with the Shift tool, it's just going to select all of them. But if I use the object tool, I can shift and click various ones like that. The separation tool looks like this. If I have my clip like this right here, and I highlight the section right in here with my separation tool, I can grab it and move it out. I can also use the option to drag it out and make a copy of it. So for example, you can put all these back to normal. There we go. I got my separation tool here. Let me use my selector tool, put it back in my separation tool, hold down Option and drag it. Now it didn't make a new object in here, new clip in here. It just dragged it out and put it over here. So I don't have my clip in here to see it. I just got it over here, which is pretty cool, I guess. In this case, I would hit Command E I would go ahead and hit Command and drag it out because I like to see what I drag my clip from, but that's just me. And different programs do it differently. What I use is I usually use my Smart Tool here with the Trim tool, the Selector tool, and the Separation tool. I don't usually use just the normal time grabber tool, the normal grabber tool. I usually use the Separation tool. Now, because I do that though, there's a couple things that might happen that are kind of weird. Weird, I don't know if weird is the right word, but they will throw you off. Okay, let me just show you what those things are. First of all, depending on where I've got my, let me put my Smart Tool back in, there we go. Depending on where I click, just like with any Smart Tool, it highlights that part, or if I'm down here, it's the grabber tool. Now, notice I've got, if I hold Shift, I can adjust the beginnings and ends of my selection right there by holding Shift. If I mouse down and I drag it out, it's my Separation tool. But what if I've got a long clip like this and I highlight a certain part of it, like this, and then I'm like, you know what? Actually, I want to grab the whole entire clip, not just the selected part. Well, what you can do is you can click outside of the selected part you just made and then drag the whole thing over. Okay. Now, that is just something you need to practice in order to get your head around, to really understand it, to really work with it. When you're first using this stuff, you're gonna be working slowly. Please, please, please have patience. You need to have patience, okay? Because when you're first doing this stuff, it's gonna get weird. Let me just show you an example. If I go over here to my strip silenced one, it's all strip silenced up. I'm gonna get rid of all my fades. How do I get rid of the fades? Delete fades. There we go. Right click, delete fades. Cool. So I get rid of all my fades. I should know that. And I say, you know what? I want to edit the beginning and end of this one, but I'm like zoomed way out like this. You can see that with my Smart Tool, it's not letting me adjust the trim points on here. See that? If I zoom in with it's not letting me adjust the trim points. It's just letting me grab it or select it, or I can't even crossfade it. Right? So I can't really do anything with this. Well, that's because I'm zoomed too far out. We need to zoom in. So Command brackets to zoom in. Now I can adjust my trim points on this one like this. And I can put like a little crossfade at the end like that. Okay. But I couldn't do that until I was zoomed in, because if I zoom out, right, I'm too far out. I can't do any, I can't use my tool, my Smart Tool effectively. So just keep in mind about that kind of stuff. When your tools really work better depending on your zoom situation. So if I highlight this, I can drag it out like that, great. But if I'm zoomed way out, that's highlighted. It's not really, is it gonna let me? Oh, it does let me, cool, but I can't really see what's going on. It's like really hard to see what's happening in here. So I don't really want to work like that. You gotta, constantly be zooming in, zooming out is really a thing, constantly working like that. Or if you want to use your single zoom tool, you can just highlight it and grab it like that. Now, let's just talk about that single zoom. Oops. Here's my zoom. The zoom tool, there's two versions of it. The shortcut is F5. The regular version is you click to zoom in, you option click to zoom out. With your single zoom, when you zoom once, it automatically flips back to your previous tool that you had. So, for example, the real zoom, it's just F5. If I use that, now if I zoom in or if I highlight something, I zoom in, I can keep zooming on stuff. If I use option, I can zoom out. With the single zoom, which is actually really useful, I highly recommend using that single zoom if you like the zoom tool, is you can highlight over something like this, and now it'll flip back to whatever tool you had previously selected. So I'm going to select my Smart Tool, and let's use the single zoom, hold option to zoom out, and there we go. Now it's back to my Smart Tool. If I go back to my single zoom again, and I just want to see this one here, I just highlight it, and now it puts it right in the middle of my screen. So it's really, really useful for using that single zoom tool. I personally don't really use my zoom tool that much anymore, just because I use command brackets in and out. And depending on what's highlighted, that's where your zoom is going to go to. So for example, if I want to zoom in on this, like right over here, command bracket once, and it puts that right in the middle of my screen. And now I can zoom in and out on that. Okay, if I've got a clip selected like this, the beginning of that clip is going to be in the middle of my screen, which can be a little bit annoying. I usually put it like right there, and there we go, cool. But again, you get used to it. I don't care if you use the zoom tool or not, or whatever you do. Honestly, I don't care. It's up to you. These are just how I'm just giving you some examples of how I use this stuff. Cool. All right, let's go back into our notes. Oops, wrong direction. There we are. Okay, the grabber tool. Let me see, wait, not the grabber tool. The trim tool. Where's my trim tool? Trim tool. We're going to talk about trim tool tomorrow. But let me just give you a quick overview of the trim tool, because so you might be like, wait, what about the trim tool? The trim tool has 3 modes as well, like the grabber tool does. The trim tool has standard, TCE, and loop. Standard mode is what we've been using so far. It just, reveals more of the clip, more of the audio file like that. That's what our standard trim tool does. If I have it in loop mode, what that does is it actually makes a loop of that clip. Right up there we go. And then I like that. So they've done something kind of new with this, where now if I go down the bottom, it's a normal trim tool, and if I go up top, it's the loop trim tool if you have loop turned on, which is actually really useful for stuff. I never really got in the habit of using my trim tool with Pro Tools because it doesn't really work the way I think it should work. Oh, there we go. Okay, so when you get back to this part here, it's like, oh, now it's in trim mode. I don't, for me personally, after using Logic and Ableton Live for so long, Pro Tools loop trim tool doesn't really work the way I expect it to, so I don't really use it. Once you start using Ableton Live, or if you've already been using Logic, or if you've already been using Ableton Live, you'll kind of know what I'm talking about. The loop tool loops like a clip basically, and then you can go in and edit that clip. And that's how I like using Ableton Live with. I like being able to edit the clip and changing the data inside the clip, whereas with Pro Tools, it works a little bit differently. And I never really got used to it, so I don't really use the loop tool in Pro Tools. The other tool is our TCE tool. Let me just give you a quick example of this. Wait. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to go over here. 1, 2, 3. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the TCE tool, and I'm going to make these all longer, like this. What I'm doing, TCE stands for time compression expansion. And I'm literally stretching these things out. So let's listen to it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you can hear how these are all longer. If I wanted to, I could also make them shorter. Let me just hold on. I usually use this my smart tool. There we go. Smart tool. I just make sure I have to cut the beginning properly, else it does some like weird stuff. There we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay, you can hear how that's a lot faster. That's what the TCE tool does, is time compression expansion. It expands things, it compresses things like that in terms of length of time. Time compression expansion. We're going to talk a lot more about that tomorrow when we're talking about elastic audio. Okay, cool. All right, I think that is a good stopping point for there.